Hello everyone, Grace here by Ken Liggett was a phenomenal story. It was a wild ride of resilience, conformity, love for someone else, and the expectations that we live in our society. Girls of Garner County wait until their grace year, which is about their 16th year, to go into the wild in a camp and release all their magic. Not all of them make it back, and no one comes back the same. I've already really recommended this book frequently. I actually recommended it to my mom because I think she would have really liked it. And honestly, I need to ask her and see if she does. It is like a solid 4 out of 5. And this is like a weird thing of like, it's been a little bit since between finishing it and filming this. And I actually like it almost less now than whenever I first finished it. Now don't get me wrong, it was a very fast-paced novel. It took me about 2 days to finish it. Honestly, I probably could have finished it in one if I wasn't told to go to bed by my husband, but that's kind of what happens sometimes. The way it's been recommended and the way I've recommended it is it's a mix of The Handmaid's Tale and Lord of the Flies. And honestly, I haven't read Lord of the Flies, but I've like read and seen so many things about it that it feels really accurate way to describe Grace here. Now, leading on, there's going to be a few spoilers. This book is something I got from my library, but I did see that it was on Kindle Unlimited if you have that subscription. And so there's a couple of different ways to read it without actually having to purchase the book if that's not within your budget. Tierney James is a girl in Garner County. She really just wants more of a peaceful existence. She sees the wrong that it is in the society she lives in, but she's very much like doesn't know if she could actually produce change, which makes sense. She's only like a 16-year-old girl. 16, 17? It's weird. Some people are 16, some people are 17. That's just kind of where they're at. They're still very new they're getting into their adulthood. Garner County is definitely a place that's run by men. There's a lot of misogyny and women are treated as a second-class individual. What I found interesting and that kind of helped build the world is that women are branded as children, like on the bottom of their foot, and supposedly whenever they're babies, and it's like, wow, that's terrifying. They have to wear ribbons and keep their hair pulled back. So I thought those elements really produced a lot of world building and actually giving us more in depth of like what this actually looks like. Now, the color of the ribbons actually makes sense. White is for children before girls. For girls and before they bleed and they start their menstruation. Red is whenever they are menstruating. They're at their wickedness is kind of what the vibe was. And then black is for whenever they are married or they come back from their grace year and they are women. But their hair has to be pulled up and back and braided basically at all times is part of the uniform of being a female in this society. Women can be punished for any misdeed in the society. There's witch trials. One of the things that happened early on in the book is there was an old man that said that his wife didn't release all of her magic and she's been levitating in the middle of the night, and so she is considered a witch and is put on trial and hanged. Now then, for that man, it's not like, oh, he just lives his life single or whatever. No, he gets to be put back in this group of the boys in this grace year and choose a new wife from all of these 16, 17-year-old women. So it's not great. The girls are veiled before they leave for their grace year, and veiling is like they are chosen by somebody in their society. Veiling is interesting because the girls have this veil, they don't take it off for 24 hours or whatever. And if the girls are not veiled, they are taken to, they're taken to like the factories, the field, or even like the outskirts. So the way this works, the outskirts are the area where if you've been kicked out of the community, you live in that area. So now really Garner County is just full of men that are high privileged, basically. The boys and men in the outskirts are considered a second class and the women even worse. It is honestly difficult for anyone that lives in this society. If you fall out of the ranks, you are considered unworthy, and they just don't allow for second chances, basically. There's Hans, who's a guard, and the guards in the community are from the outskirts, and they are snippety snapped. And Hans is a friend of Tierney's, and he's a bit older than her. He ends up becoming a guard on the camp area. That's a whole nother thing. That's a huge plot thing, and I didn't really see some of that coming. Michael Welk is one of Tierney's friends, and Michael will become the apothecary owner whenever he's the end of the grace year, and he and Tierney are friends. He ends up veiling Tierney, and she does not like that. It paints a huge target on her back because Christian, another girl in the grace year, was supposed to marry Michael, and whenever that kind of happens is it paints a huge target on Tierney's back and kind of marks her as an outcast. As the girls leave after the veiling ceremony, this is where things really start getting interesting, because the guards aren't really there to guard them. They're just basically there to guide them from the county to the camp. Now, the girls are told if they leave the camp area, they're on their own. Like, poachers might get them. On the way there, if they fall off, they leave the trail, poachers can get them. Now, what are the poachers? Poachers are literally poachers. They are people that are from the outskirts that are basically hunting the girls because their magic is the most strongest, and they're trying to render down the girls so people in Garner County can assume that magic for different purposes. So yes, there's cannibalism in this book, and that was kind of wild whenever you're first learning about it. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like, it is messed up. One of the girls is skinned alive before they even get to the camp, and she screams because the longer she lasts, the more potent the magic is for the poachers. Another one of the girls is collecting rocks on the way, and she dives into the lake and drowns herself because she doesn't want to continue on with any of this. Which is like, if someone's willing to do that, it shows you how messed up, and Kim really did a great job of having that empathy and also the little bits and pieces to show like how much of a how much of a hold this community has on every single person. Gertrude, it becomes one of Tierney's friends. It's more like an alliance and friendship, and Gertrude kind of calls her out because Gertrude is considered unclean for something she did as a child, and she was severely punished for it. It also has a lot of elements of what we would consider for like Salem witch trials. The books I've read like growing up from that, there's some things that I saw that really kind of correlated whenever I've read one of those books. Tierney is separated from the group at some point on the way to the camp. Tierney is separated from the group on the way to the camp, and she sees a poacher. The poacher doesn't actually attack her, and this is the first interaction with Riker, who is our love interest. And so the romance in this book is something happened. I understand like the way that it kind of works. I wish I saw more of like what was happening in the camp. When the girls get to the encampment, the guards just kind of leave them there, and lines are really drawn. Tierney tries to be like, oh, let's make things to where it's like a little easier. We'll collect rainwater, stuff like that. Christian, who is the popular girl, is saying, no, we're going to survive like every other grace year. We're going to drink from the well water, and we're going to just survive on the rations that we kind of have, and we're going to release our magic. Now, Christian's magic is supposed to be that of manipulation. What I thought was really interesting and was really well done is there's so much, is the magic real or is it not? There was times that we'd be doing stuff and it'd be like, okay, is the magic real? But as you like learn more about what's kind of going on, you realize that no, the magic is not real, and it's just a lot of psychological manipulation, which is a magic of its own. Things get really wild because the girls are releasing the magic into the wild. They're howling at the moon, they're pushing and moving the sun, and they're making the moon rise. Wild stuff like that. Now, Tyranny is at this point like, is the magic real? She never really, she had suspicions that the magic that the women have was not real. But things kind of change at the encampment to where she starts to maybe believe it in some parts the rest of the year. The novel really seems to lag at this point. It kind of seems like you're looking through a dirty window. Things get really wild. Some of the girls die in the encampment. One gets struck by lightning, and the girls just kind of leave the bodies at the outside of the encampment for the poachers to collect, because if the bodies are not accounted for, their younger sibling, their younger sisters could face consequences whenever they get back. So it's very messed up on how they even collect the girls that are passed. Tyranny gets casted out of the encampment and she's trying to survive at night. A bear comes and investigates what's kind of going on and tears her cloak. This cloak was sewn by her sister June, who is older than her. Her sister June sewed thousands of seeds on the inside of the cloak as a way to try to keep Tyranny alive and the girls alive, because not everything goes according to plan at all during this year, and there's not really a plan besides just survive. Tyranny is injured really badly and she's rescued by Riker, the poacher that we see earlier in the novel. Now with Riker, he nurses her back to health, and this is where that love story element kind of ties in, of the things that Riker was told about the girls and the things that Tyranny is told about the poachers, and just kind of their expectations of everything. Now, what makes it more interesting is just the little bits and pieces that we kind of see of people actually not wanting to live this life in the county and outside the county, like on the outskirts. That part, the love story part where we're kind of just in one section, that's where the book kind of stalled for me. I do wish we saw a little bit more of the action going on in the encampment, but at the same time, obviously, I understand where they are kind of going for and why we broke off from this part. Tyranny does have to go back to the encampment, and whenever she goes back, she is able to kind of convince the girls that she's released her magic and to kind of change, to stop drinking from the well and to eat some of the things that was grown from June's garden. And by the time the girls actually get back to Garner County, there's a huge uproar of how much more powerful the girls are actually becoming. And this kind of closes out the end of the book. It's really good, and just that really shows you that change doesn't always happen within our lifetime, and that sometimes it does have to be passed on to other generations to continue the work. Like, true change is sometimes a slow progress. It is one thing after another, and then a huge cataclysm. The pacing of the book overall was really good, very fast paced. It did lull in certain parts, but even the lulls didn't seem to take forever. It was really easy just to kind of keep on reading them. Now, I do wish that we saw more of the society, but there's enough information given that you can make your own assumptions of how awful this society actually is, in the sense of what's kind of going on. What's kind of going on within the society and the awful things happening there. Now, if you guys like this video and you like my ramblings, let me know in the comments. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. If you guys do decide to read this book, let me know what you think, because it's one of those books since like after I first got done reading it, really loved it. Now that I've a little time has passed, I don't know if I loved it as much. Does that make sense? But ultimately, I would recommend it, especially if you like Handmaid's Tale or Lord of the Flies, which apparently I now need to read. Anyways, see you guys later. Bye!